Alright, here we go. I wasn't a fan of the new Phineas and Ferb movie, Sponge on the Run. The Sonic movie and Soul were fine. Please, please, Tom and Jerry, make me not look like such a negative Nancy, please be good. I really like Tom and Jerry, the characters, not the movie. I watched most of their cartoons as a kid and loved them a lot, whether it be the originals, Tom and Jerry Kids. I remember watching a lot of Tom and Jerry Teals when I was young. Hell, I even loved the original movie from 1992, I watched that all the time. I rewatched it not too long ago in anticipation for the new one, and yeah, doesn't hold up very well. With its biggest issue being it's not a Tom and Jerry movie, just a movie with Tom and Jerry slapped in it. But I won't lie and say there aren't aspects I enjoy, such as the music, and honestly, I kinda like their voices, they're so dumb.
I'm Tom.
I'm Jerry.
You talked!
Anyways, so a new Tom and Jerry movie just released in theaters and streaming services all over the world, and quite a few people were looking forward to this movie. None of those people being me, though. Again, I love Tom and Jerry a lot, but I could see the red flags from a mile away. You know, with the most obvious one being that it's a live-action CGI hybrid, with the two interacting with humans. But that isn't always a bad sign. I mean, hey, Scooby-Doo 2 is one of my favorite movies ever, and it's just that. So who knows, maybe I'll actually find this one good, or at the very least entertaining. So without further ado, let's get into the new Tom and Jerry movie, to see if it succeeds at what they failed to do 30 years ago. Jesus Christ, that was 30 years ago. This movie opens with rapping pigeons. I think that should be well enough indication for how this is gonna go. The movie follows a very basic plot. Tom is brought into a hotel to get rid of Jerry, who has been staying there, as there's this big wedding event going on that can't be screwed up. That actually sounds pretty decent. The city of New York and a hotel seems like it'd have plenty of opportunities for great, creative slapstick comedy. And that's when this movie decides to throw a little wrench in that plan. And that wrench is otherwise known as Chloe Grace Moretz, whatever. I just know her as the girl from Kick-Ass. This woman takes up, I want to say, around 60% of the movie, as we follow her endeavors of getting a new job at this hotel by lying about her resume and trying to make a good impression on her boss. Which is where my first major complaint with this movie comes in, and it's probably the biggest one. This is not a Tom and Jerry movie. Honestly, it might even be worse than the first one when it comes to that. We are immediately thrown into this girl's problems, and the first 20 minutes feel like they completely forgot about Tom. They spend so much time setting up the hotel and the girl. It feels like a commercial at this point, with Michael Peña's character taking her on a tour as we see Tom and Jerry in the background doing silly things to keep the kids entertained. They really have nothing to do. Of course, I know the real reason this stuff is here. It's so they can set up the importance of certain set pieces like the glass ceiling, but it's so on the nose with Michael Peña going, "This is the most important part of our hotel, it's the glass ceiling. It's what we're famous for, everyone loves it. I sure hope nothing bad happens it." So when Tom and Jerry destroy it, you're like, oh no, that's the thing he said he didn't want destroyed, and now it's destroyed. At least I think they wish that that's how you would have reacted to it. But like, it's not shocking at all, because I'm sure 99% of people are able to look at that and realize what they're setting up. There's so many points in this movie where someone comes in like, "Look at this new skateboard I got, isn't it rad?" Or, "Whoa, watch out for that drone that I'm controlling with this remote. Wouldn't want that getting in the wrong hands now, would we?" I wouldn't know how many people agree with me on this, but I'm in the belief that a Tom and Jerry movie just couldn't work, or at least it would be harder to pull off than the people involved in this were willing to go. The concept just doesn't work enough to be put into a good 3-act structure, so if it were to be done, it would need to take a different approach. Then they try to have this theme of coming together like, "Hey guys, if Tom and Jerry can get along, then so can we." But both of these stories feel completely disconnected from one another, despite them trying their absolute hardest to make them intertwine. I'll give the original movie this, at least it had a believable relationship between the duo and the little girl. But Chloe is so awful at acting here, it's laughable.
No, please, sir, please just, you can't do that to me.
It's a shame because I remember her being good in other movies. I guess she's just phoning in her performance here and doesn't care much about it, but it sucks because so much of the movie is dedicated to her. Again, I just feel like mentioning this because I know for a fact someone is gonna say, "Why are you complaining about a Tom and Jerry movie keeping things simple? Isn't that a good thing?" But the issue is, if you want to tell a simple Tom and Jerry movie, tell a simple Tom and Jerry movie. Don't tell a basic movie about a girl trying to arrange a wedding at a hotel that just so happens to have Tom and Jerry in it. The only character in here that I find remotely entertaining is the hotel boss of all people. He seems to be the only one who understands he's in a dumb kids movie, and so overacts every single line. It's really funny, unironically. He's the only good character here. But again, he's barely even in it because so much is dedicated to the girl. If you ask me, this is how I would have done it. It's not perfect, but I think it keeps it more in line with the originals. In the originals, more often than not, the plot would be, Tom is relaxing, Jerry comes into the picture, and while not antagonizing Tom, Tom has to go after him because his owners or something are threatening to kick him out unless he gets the mouse, you know? Like something simple like that. But the way they spark Tom and Jerry's rivalry here is so dumb. Tom wants to play the piano for money, and Jerry comes in for no reason to ruin it. That's it, that's how it starts. Then Tom is just brought into the hotel to get rid of him. Like, I think it's pretty important to establish Tom as the bad guy here, but he did nothing wrong. Piss off, Jerry, the man just wants to grill. But in my opinion, they should have only met after Jerry got to the hotel. What if Tom was introduced as the muscle they bring in to get rid of Jerry? Or maybe he's like the hotel's owner's cat and he's really spoilt or something? I don't know. Unless he has to go after Jerry. That way, when Tom and Jerry meet for the first time, he's more so trying to get rid of Jerry as his duty. Not because he actively dislikes him. Which in turn would make it more interesting to see the relationship evolve from just Tom doing business into pure hatred. And having him already at the hotel gives him something to lose when he eventually gets knocked down a peg. You know, he's in a position of power. Again, it's nothing amazing, but I don't know, I think it would have been better. But I mean, who even cares about that? Who's going into a Tom and Jerry movie for the plot? Which if so, I don't know why they put such a focus on it, but either way. What they really want to see is the animation and slapstick. And this is what had everyone excited. It's a 3D movie that replicates the style of the original 2D animations. And it doesn't just try to make them look creepy and realistic. I saw quite a few people who actually thought it was animated in 2D. Wow, they must have done a really good job with it. Is what I thought. I brought up this worry in my Smurfs video, and I'm sad to say it came true, but I think there needs to be some sort of separating for what is good animation, and what is good animation in context to the movie. Because in a vacuum, yes, this movie has amazing animation, it's incredibly impressive, with how well they were able to push these models to give them expressions and pull off slapstick that was usually only possible in 2D. The use of squash and stretch, multiples, it's all really cool to see, but it comes at a cost. And that cost is a little known thing I like to call immersion. So in this movie's universe, every living thing that isn't a human is a cartoon character. The animals, bugs, even fish are all animated. And while ambitious, and I can definitely appreciate the effort put in here, just doesn't look very good. When interacting with the human world, I mean. I feel the need to preface that largely here because a bunch of people, again, are gonna get annoyed at that. Animation looks great, it's just in terms of interacting with the human world. But in a Tom and Jerry movie like this where the characters are almost always touching or holding or being held by something, it looks really bad. Look at this one shot of the female cat jumping on Chloe, it looks like it just attaches itself to her, and she doesn't even react to it at all and then puts her hands up way too late to hold on to it. There are a ton of weird little moments like that which I don't think were thought out very well. Like, I love the walk cycle of the alley cats, it looks so awful. And they do so much immersion breaking stuff that wouldn't look out of place in a YouTube fan animation. Like the weird editing parts where they just have what the characters is saying come up on screen. Like, oh, what the fuck is that? It's just like they're so desperate to let the kids understand what's going on because they're so unconfident in their storytelling that they keep doing these little thought bubble things showing what a character is thinking, but they look awful. Like there's literally a point where to establish that Michael Peña is the villain, they just have a random fish have a thought bubble of a poo emoji. It's I can appreciate the attempt to make it look like the originals, but if you have to try this hard, then seriously, either animate it in 2D or just make it an entirely CG movie. Because despite it looking good at certain points, there are way too many times where the shaders they're using causes the CG to stick out a ton, and it looks terrible. Most notably with the big ol' Cindy Vortex, or like I said, when they interact with the real world. Which is too bad, as these are otherwise the coolest parts of the movie. I can imagine it would be hard to have these almost Rube Goldberg setups all unfold correctly, and it does look cool at points. But for the most part, the animation in this just was really distracting. Which is a damn shame because I know it was the thing people were most excited about. I could nitpick a lot of the stuff that happens in this movie, such as how some animals are bipedal and talk and some don't. Or a bunch of the random story elements not making sense, like when they randomly get taken away by animal control for no reason. But really, there's no point. Those two things, the story and animation, are all they really need to mess up for me to stop caring. And don't give me that crap about the slapstick being good because it's either A, treading on jokes they already did in the original series, or B, really weightless and doesn't give you enough feel for the impact. I mean, I guess there's also the comedy to look at.
I need you to understand the sensitivity of this matter.
Yes.
If a picture of this mouse is tweeted up to Instabook Face or the TikTok, we will be ruined.
Yeah, okay, nope. Hey, I mean, I guess the Joker reference was cool. That'll surely have the kids rolling in the aisles. All in all, I'm very disappointed with the Tom and Jerry movie. I wouldn't go so far as to say it's bad. I really wouldn't. I did it on Twitter, but that was just like my first base reaction on it. But after thinking for a bit, it's just really, really mediocre in the worst way possible. I mean, not that I had much high hopes in the first place. If you want to see some actually good new Tom and Jerry content, I'd recommend skipping this movie and checking out the new shorts they just released around a week ago. They are a godsend compared to this. Alright, there's another one done. What's the next movie coming out that people are gonna inevitably get angry at me for not enjoying? God help me.